So everybody, this is San Diego Comic-Con 2019, San Diego, California, and this is Rich Hen. I'm Chris Rohn, the famous David Lloyd.
Well, thank you very much.
And we're on our first episode of our Barzinga.
That's right, Barzinga podcast. But this is the last day of San Diego.
This is the last day of San Diego. This is the 50th anniversary of San Diego
50th,
Comic-Con.
I can't even believe it.
50th anniversary of San Diego Comic-Con.
So how long have you been coming here, though?
I've been coming here 16 years.
16 years.
I've been here 16 years. I started coming here. My first Comic-Con would have been, I guess, 2002.
Wow.
And I was still self-publishing at the time. I started self-publishing in 1998. I did a book called Time Spell, a supernatural thriller, and then after that I started doing an autobiographical book called Zoomies. And Zoomies is well, as my friends call it, it's The Wonder Years meets One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, yeah.
It's autobiographical stories of my life growing up in the 70s and 80s. My parents took care of people from a local psychiatric hospital on an like an outpatient basis.
Yeah.
And this went on for about 10 years. So the stories I write in Zoomies are about these cast of characters that came in and out of my life over a course of 10-year period. You know, my formative years growing up on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Wow. Now, were your family in medical? Were they in the medical industry?
No, not at all. No, my family came originally from Long Island, and my dad grew up in Long Island in the 30s and 40s when it was farmland.
Right.
And I think that still appealed to him, and as he grew up, he always wanted to own his own farm.
Okay.
So in the mid 60s, they drove to upstate New York. Now, upstate New York, not to be confused with like White Plains, but upstate New York, where it's just mountains.
Yeah.
And just acres and acres of cornfields and stuff. So they found about 190 acres of property that they bought for $3,200 at the time.
Can you imagine that, buying that land that cheap back then?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Well, the thing was, so he wanted to have a farm, maybe not necessarily a dairy farm, but he wanted to live off the land.
Right.
And it didn't take very long before he realized, it's very, very difficult to make a living. You just can't, especially in that period.
Oh, yeah.
So my mother knew, she was friends with somebody that was a nurse at Elmira Psychiatric Hospital in New York. And at the time, I guess they had this, I want to call it like a beta test program. I'm not really kind of sure how to, phrase that. But she said, hey, you can make a little bit of extra money if you were willing to do foster care for these patients from the psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
And they started taking these people in, and they weren't like dangerous, mentally deranged people. These were people that were mentally handicapped at birth, or something happened to them at some point in their life, and they just couldn't take care of themselves. Some might be functioning on a 5-year-old level. Some might be functioning at mildly retarded. It all depended.
And that's what you got the Zoomies concept and idea from.
Right. And I still have to give credit to my high school art teacher as coining that phrase. I just have this very distinct memory of being in 9th grade art class and talking to my buddies about these people that my parents took care of. And I remember my art teacher laughing, and he goes, they're like Zoomies. And the word just stuck.
Yeah.
The word just stuck, and that was what I called them. That was my a nickname.
Yeah.
And when I was doing Time Spell, I would travel around to conventions promoting my book with another friend, Carlos Speed McNeil.
Okay.
He does a book called Finder.
Yeah.
And you spend a long time in a car, and she's telling me about growing up, and I'd be like, that's nothing. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And I would tell her these stories about growing up on the farm with these guys. And she kept saying, "You've got to put that down on paper. You've got to.
Yeah.
This is big." And I remember initially kind of laughing it off, like, nobody gives a crap about my life. She said, "You go ahead and do it. You write the stories, and I'll put them in the back of Finder."
Yeah.
And that's how it started, and just kind of evolved. At the time, Cold Cut Distribution was another distributor that did comic books. It was Diamond Distribution, Cold Cut, and I feel like there was one other. Heroes. Yep, Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And Cold Cut really focused a lot on helping independent publishers.
Okay.
I started at SPX in Bethesda, Maryland. That was my first convention. I think that's where I met the guys from Cold Cut Distribution. They were talking about what they called Indie Island at the time.
Yeah.
And my memory, I remember, I think it was like right here in the same spot where they had a good, 16 creators, and it was just this big, horseshoe that took up probably about 3 islands.
Wow.
And people came around and they got your books, and they would ring up the cash register at the front, and at the end of the day, Cold Cut would say, okay, here's what you sold, and start cut. And that was the first San Diego I did, but it was also, I think, one of the last times Cold Cut set up.
And what year was that?
2004?
Yeah.
2004 maybe.
So what's the expanse from then till now? What do you think? Like, if you see obviously a lot of change.
Well, the biggest change is that we're at a comic book convention where there's not that much focus on comic books.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's
one thing we'll talk about too.
That's kind of troubling.
It is.
A lot of comic book dealers have left. There used to be a really big comic book dealer, and David remembers Mile High Comics
from Denver, Colorado.
It was right over there, and they had
the whole back wall almost.
Whole back wall had to have been easy 15 tables.
Had to be. Yep.
And Chuck had been coming here from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And he just at some point he just threw his hands up and just said, I'm done.
Yeah.
The show, it's still a great show.
Yeah.
I love coming here. But there's more focus on movies, television, that form of entertainment, pop culture, and it just seems to be less about the comic books, more like Show West.
Right.
Is what.
Well, it's almost like the industry's now kind of balanced out itself, because now that comics have left San Diego, a lot of other cities now are popping up with their own actual comic conventions.
Oh, sure.
That are focusing I know we're from Phoenix, Arizona, so we do Fan Fusion, and I've seen that. I've been going there for 10 years. I've seen that thing grow exponentially almost every year.
David can tell you, because David goes to New York City Comic Con also. New York City Comic Con started off very small, and now it's ballooned into, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like San Diego Light. It's heading in that direction of just being a crush.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I remember one of the earlier shows, they had to call in fire marshals. They really didn't anticipate the crowds that were going to be coming in, and the fire marshals came in and had to, evacuate people. I stepped out to go to the bathroom, and they wouldn't let me back in.
Wow.
That was the first one.
I think so. Yeah, that was the first one.
I was there, and
You remember that?
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sharing with Bill Sienkiewicz.
Okay.
And he had to go. It was like very strange.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's evolved into this this monster of a show. I still think that there are times that there's just too many people. It's like putting a gallon into a shot glass, and we're going to make it fit.
Yeah.
You know? The difference between that show and this show is, I think, unless you exit the building to get to the other side of the hall, it could take you a good half hour more just to get from A to B. Yeah. New York City is a little easier to navigate.
Right.
But yeah, it's becoming like San Diego.
And then when did you start having the booth here in San Diego?
So after Cold Cut, I kind of moved around a lot.
Okay.
I was still in this area, which is called the Independent Publisher Pavilion. I was closer to the back where I think Eric Powell sits now.
Okay.
And then at one point I was over by the bathrooms in the back. And I remember that particular show, Robert Kirkman had just started doing Walking Dead. So I think he had like six. Yeah, I think he had like 6 issues complete at the time, and he was sitting there across from me, and I think he had, I don't know, like 8 copies of issue, 12 copies of issue 1 left.
Okay.
And it took a couple of days, he sold out, but it took a couple of days. Colleen Dorn was over there too with some of those Image guys. And then I hooked up with another buddy who's self-published. His name is Rich Kozlowski.
Okay.
And Rich did a great book back in the day called Three Geeks and Geeksville. And I'd known him since my early days at SPX, and we'd been buddies for a long time. We said, "Hey, let's see if we can, coordinate and let's do something together." So the first time we had a booth together, we were against this far back wall, and it was a bad spot because you're right in the main thoroughfare.
Yeah.
So you're constantly getting a flow of traffic, and nobody's really stopping to take a look at your product because they just want to go from point A to point B. at that point, we were like, okay, we need to get a different spot, and they put us here.
Okay.
And I think we've been in this spot for 10 years.
Wow.
Rich did it with me for another 2-3 years, and then he went down to Artist Alley. I think I had the booth by myself for a year, and then James Owen did a book called Star Child, and he's a novelist too. He does a series of books called Here There Will Be Dragons. He shared the booth with me for a few years, and then he stopped attending, and I just had the space to myself.
Wow.
And I was in London Comic Con.
What year was that?
Point.
Like 2000.
London Comic Con.
Right?
No, I'm going to say that London Comic Con where I connected with David was, let's see, 2019, probably 2007, 2006, 2007. And I'd known David from doing a lot of the shows, and I remember we were at the show, and I think it was the last day of the show, and we were just talking. I said, hey, see you in San Diego, right? And David said, I don't know. He goes, DC's not sponsoring me this year. I said, hey, I've got this great big space. It's just me. I'll take you in.
Yeah.
So this is David's 5th, 6th year with us.
Okay.
5th, yeah.
Well, before we talk more about that, let's let for the folks on the interweb that the kids are watching these days, let's let Dave give a little introduction of himself, where he started. He's in our eyes, a big superstar and celebrity for us, but the immense creator of V for Vendetta. So, Dave, why don't you let the audience know a little about you?
Okay, that's a big ask. Where do you want me to start? Tell me about you.
Yeah.
How did I get here?
Yeah,
how did I get here in this crazy?
Yeah,
world?
how did you get in this crazy business? Did you just wake up one day and go, I'm going to start drawing?
Okay, all right, okay. Hey, if we got lots of time,
we got all the time in the world.
Okay.
Look,
when I was a kid, I just drew because I drew. I think the great thing about, well, actually, every kid draws. This is the great thing. It's the important thing to remember. Every kid draws. That's why you give kids coloring books, because they love to draw.
Right.
And every kid instinctively likes to draw. At some point, they stop drawing. Either because somebody says, well, a tree doesn't really look like that, Joey, or something stupid like that, which actually puts them off drawing for life. But generally, kids draw. Every kid draws because that's part of what they are.
Yeah.
Cave painting.
Yeah.
Cavemen they had no reason to do it. They weren't making comics. They weren't making any money.
Yeah.
They just had to draw. So that's what I did. I drew, and unlike the other kids, though, I was meant to draw, and I kept drawing. And the first, I just drew simple cartoons. My dad worked in a bus garage as maintenance.
Okay.
And he would bring home all these old posters of
posters
unused that were stuck on the
outside of the.
The posters were like stuck on the side of the bus that they were spare. So he would bring up these posters, and that was my drawing paper. So I cut those up, and I was drawing on those. And he just knew I liked to draw, so I kept drawing. And then my early stuff was really cartoons, because in my early days, newspapers had lots of gag cartoons.
Yep.
They don't anymore.
No.
British newspapers at the time I was a kid, they had a little section called Laughter, and there was a whole bunch of gag cartoons. Simple stuff. Putting a file in a cake, all that sort of stuff. Very simple stuff. And I grew up on those, so I was drawing basic cartoons. And then I saw Mad Magazine.
Mad Magazine.
When it was a magazine, it was too early for me to be, too late for me to see the comics.
Yeah.
But the Mad magazines, George Woodbridge, Jack Davis, all that stuff, and I would trace some of that stuff and put it on the wall.
Oh wow!
That was my capabilities at the time, But I loved this stuff so much that I had to trace it and draw it and stick it on the wall. And so it was Mad magazine, and then I don't know how far you want to want me to go.
Well, what was like the cartoon or the comic strip that you followed a lot? Like, what was your personal favorite?
If you're asking about the first inspiration, it's, the first inspiration to actually wanting to do comics was something called Wrath of the Gods,
Okay.
which was drawn by a fantastic artist called Ronald Embleton, an English guy, and he was an extremely good draftsman. So when I saw that, it was like he created a world that you could literally believe in. To such a degree, it was like a movie. I mean, there were very few comics around that I'd seen like that, in British comics or anything, that actually created a world that was not stylized at all. It was incredibly realistic. So everything he did was like real. So it was like a movie. And when I saw that, it was a big double-page spread in a comic that I was buying at the time. When I saw that, I thought, if you can do that, if you can do that in comics, I want to try this.
Yeah.
So that really started me off. It wasn't an obsession or anything, but I just felt if you can do that, you're like making your own movie. In a sense, it's like that. You're creating. I mean, we all know that most escapism and most escapist literature, from Conan the Barbarian, Robert E. Howard, all those guys, and anybody doing, the early comic book, you're escaping. You love that world that you can escape into, like a comedian escapes into his own persona in order to escape his own.
Yeah, like Robin Williams, even.
Absolutely. So, but that element is incredible. So, from about 12, 13, I was doing comics in school, for fun. And then when I actually graduated and ended up working, I worked initially in advertising agency, and I was doing lots of drawings of things, to sell things. But then no figure drawing, so I was largely self-taught in figure drawing. But when I was in advertising since I left school, about 6 years, I was just doing comics in the lunchtime, and I was doing them at home, and I just did these great epics, and I was teaching myself and trying hard to become better. And at the end of the day, I left the advertising studio on a promise of work in comics that never happened.
Yeah, that's probably typical for most comic book artists, right? Is the promise of something that never realizes.
But I just ditched my regular job because of that, and then I was left without any work. So I did for 4 years. I did 2 different part-time jobs at different, which weren't really art-related. One was I was working 2 years in a cabinet makers.
Okay.
Chopping wood and varnishing. And the other one was painter and decorator in a department store. But they were both three-day week jobs part-time, and the rest of the week, 4 days, I was improving and making all those problems that I had as an artist go away by just practicing and working. And then you send off samples, and eventually I got a break, and then I ended up building a career from that one break. Because if you develop a whole bunch of samples that you can send to publishers and you're published, then in England at that time there wasn't a lot of competition, and so I just kept on working, and then that's where I am now.
Wow. And I recently heard too that a long time ago, comic book artists, even newspaper cartoonists, would have to submit hundreds upon hundreds of submissions a month just to potentially get one published.
Rejection. That's the hardest thing. That is, and you have to have the constitution. And in fact, if you're aiming to work and make money as a comic artist, not do the occasional work or something. If you need to do it, if you want to get in the industry, that constitution helps you, because when you get deadlines, you have to have the constitution to be able to work to them, know what your speed is. Otherwise,
how to prioritize.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you're finished. But you know, that rejection, you know, it's like that old thing, you know, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. And really, that's, you know, suffering rejection, that really grows you, and you need it. You can't be weak in the industry.
Yeah.
If you're doing comics in this industry and you're weak, you're done for.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you might be brilliant. And and there are stories of some great artists whose work was Lloyd. They couldn't keep up the speed. And if you can't keep up the speed, you can't do a book that's going to give you a reputation. And then where are you going to go?
Yeah. So what was your first big break, right? That really you felt gave you the momentum and the propellant to get in the this is right before V for Vendetta. Like, how'd you? Like, what was that first big break you felt?
Well, it depends what you mean by break. If you mean the break to start a career, that's a whole different thing. That was just, you know, in England we have these gift annuals, you know, which are around TV shows. Like, if there's a popular TV show in England, like maybe Fall Guy or Knight Rider or something, every Christmas there would be an annual that could be bought for the kids, right? And they were full of articles about the movie, the stars and stuff, and also comics, and also short stories. So they were, you know, and they were simple one-off publications, and that's where I started. The guy who used to run a lot of those, he gave me a break. So my first big break was a gift annual for Logan's Run, you know, the TV show.
Great show.
Yeah.
Love that show.
And when I look back on the work I did for that, it still holds up.
Yeah.
You know, this is like years, decades ago. It still holds up. So that was my first big break, and that led me into my career. But if you're talking about getting a reputation, you know, in comics readers, it was something called Night Raven.
Night Raven, okay.
I did this was a commissioned.
It was UK publishing, right? That was
Marvel UK. There was an editor in England who had done House of Hammer. He'd done some. He'd done a magazine that blended articles on Hammer movies, the horror specialist company, with strips. In fact, there were some great people working on those strips. John Bolton was working on those strips.
Wow.
And I was given the commission to work on those strips too. And he knew me from those. And he got a job with Marvel UK. In order to, well, I think Marvel UK had existed up to that point by doing reprints of like things like Planet of the Apes. Which were just black and white reprints, sometimes coloured, of Planet of the Apes. They didn't sell very well, but then this editor I'm talking about, a guy called Des Skin, he'd managed to persuade Marvel that they should do something that was like a classic English comic. And the classic English comic is a very simple newsprint comic with a whole bunch of different stories in it, an anthology. So you'd have a sort of like a jungle story, you'd have a sword and sorcery story, you'd have a detective story. It'd be a mix, an anthology. Okay. So he managed to persuade Marvel that this was a good idea, and so he, with some recognition of the American product as well. So this was tied in with the Incredible Hulk TV series, which had just begun.
With Lou Ferrigno.
And it just so it was launched to coincide with that launch. So there was some Hulk stories in it. There was Shield stories, Nick Fury stories in it, but there were also some original British stuff in it. And I was asked to do the masked vigilante character.
And that's how you came up with Night Raven.
Yeah, which, you know, that's exactly right. That's what it was. So I was asked to do the masked vigilante character because they perceived I had some, you know, noir qualities in what I did. So that's what I did, and you know, to take the story on further, When that editor left Marvel UK and set up his own company, his own independent magazine, which was called Warrior.
Now that I remember.
Yeah, he wanted to do the same mix of characters.
Okay.
You know, the same sort of sorcery character, science fiction character, and everything. And he used a lot of the people he worked with at Marvel UK to do that. And so he asked me to do a Master Giant story. Originally, the idea was for me to write and draw the whole thing myself. By that time, though, I'd worked with this incredibly brilliant writer called Alan Moore, and I thought, no, I think it's going to be better if I get Alan on board with this as well, not me just doing it. And that's how V for Vendetta happened.
All right, so everybody, welcome back. We are at the Barzinga podcast with Rich Hinn, the famous David Lloyd, V for Vendetta, and we're back now. We had to do a little swap because my large behemoth of a mass, I don't want the shot to be all taken away from David Lloyd, so we did a little musical chairs, got Rich on their side, which is more honorable and makes more sense because these two are the booth people. I mean, I'm just the fan, so I'm just here doing the recording. All right, so David, we hear. Why don't you get the microphone a little closer to you?
Right there? Is that good?
Yeah, lean in a little more probably.
All right.
There you go. Oh, that's even better.
That's better?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so sorry, Mr. Lloyd. So we're going back down memory lane, talking about, your exposure into comics and how you got your big break and start. So we just started talking about V for Vendetta. So where'd that story, that inspiration come from? Like how did V for Vendetta start?
Well, it started because I was asked by an editor who I'd previously worked with at Marvel UK to help him with a new magazine he was producing as an independent publisher.
Okay.
Warrior. And the idea of Warrior was to have an anthology, a monthly anthology magazine that was similar to the weekly that he produced at Marvel UK. And it was an anthology that had all kinds of different characters in it. It's and different settings. So you had a science fiction character, you had a kind of sword and sorcery character, all the things, all those, and a master vigilante, a crime fighting character.
Right.
These are very classic sort of characters that you get in comics.
Right.
And we'd had those in English comics too. So he wanted to do a monthly. But a monthly that was like a big A4 thing that was like the Warren magazines. The Warren magazines were very famous, creepy and eerie that Jim Warren did, which had some of the finest American artists in them and writers.
Right.
So he wanted to do something like that. So he asked me to do a masked vigilante character for this because this is something that I'd done for him before.
Right.
When he was at Marvel UK. And the idea was for me to write and draw it myself. But by that time, I'd worked with this genius called Alan Moore, and I knew that if I got Alan on board with it, it'd be better than if I wrote it. I mean, I'm capable of it. I can tell a good story.
Of course.
But
you wanted to draw it.
Yeah, but I knew that Alan was the biggest brain in writing that I was in touch with, and we got on well. We were on the same wavelength. We worked very well together on some Doctor Who strips, and we were very we were on the same wavelength.
Right.
In fact, we were both brought up on British TV and same movies,
right.
Same books. We were both influenced by the same people, Bradbury and TV and everything, all that stuff. So we were a good match,
right?
And we worked very well together. So we started doing, working on V for Vendetta, which didn't have, at that time when we began, didn't have a title.
Yeah.
We didn't have a title.
Oh, so you guys waited till later to get a title.
Well, we didn't know what the title was going to be.
Right.
We had a construct about what was going to happen, what the character was going to be, and we figured we knew it was going to be a future England, but a future England that was taken over by fascism, the fascist dictatorship. similar to what George Orwell had done with 1984.
Yep.
But we were really worried about that possibility of that, remote though it is, because Britain is one of the oldest democracies.
Absolutely.
You know, there wasn't much likelihood of this happening. But it's always good to issue a warning now. And
Oh
then
yeah.
About
Well, when in Rome, right?
Yeah, exactly. Keep change your tires regularly.
Yeah.
You know, that whole
Yeah.
thing. So we wanted to do that, and we were given the freedom to do that by the fact that the publisher didn't have enough money to pay us industry rates, which meant that he had to give us compensation. And the compensation he gave us was that we owned it, which was unusual at the time, because most everything at that time was like beginning of the 80s, work for hire. This is way back before any royalty stuff that any American companies or any companies initiated.
Yeah.
So it was all work for hire stuff, but this time we were going to own it. And also we had freedom to do what we wanted to do.
Right.
And we grabbed that.
Oh yeah.
We grabbed that. We were both, so we wanted to tell a story. It was like an adventure story that met the brief, the Master Vigilante character, but was also meaningful.
Right.
And reflected our political viewpoints.
Right.
So that's what we did. And we were completely uncompromising about it, because we could be. And that's how it happened. And the Guy Fawkes concept was an accident, because the character we didn't know what the character was going to look like.
Yeah.
We knew we had a character who had been put in a concentration camp, experimented on, because it was a reflection of, basically it was kind of a reflection of Germany in the 30s.
Right.
Where
The Third Reich and Hitler and
where
all the Holocaust and the Jews.
yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Where dissidents are, captured, incarcerated, blah blah blah.
Right.
So we were going to do that, but we didn't know anything more about that. So we were thinking about all the kinds of different things we could do, what he would look like, because what he would look like should should describe his motivations, or would be the description of his motivations.
Right.
So I designed some various concepts, but none of them looked right. Some of them were rather too superhero-ish.
Yeah.
Is too smart, too, not gritty enough. Anyway, I just had this incredible weird brainstorm a summer afternoon. I don't know where it came from, but our character was going to be revolutionary. He was going to change things.
Yep.
Well, we have this great revolutionary in English history called Guy Fawkes, who wanted to change things. He was actually fighting a tyrannical regime. The James I was persecuting Catholics.
Right. Oh,
Although
yeah.
He said he wasn't at the time, but he was. So there was a whole bunch of people who got together and said, "Hey, we're going to get rid of this." And Guy Fawkes was one of those guys, one of the principal conspirators, who decided he would take charge of the explosives, and he was going to blow up the Houses of Parliament. He was going to blow up the whole regime sky high. He was captured before he could do anything. He was executed along with all the conspirators. But the thing is, even though he was a villain,
Yep.
and painted as villains throughout the whole of English tradition, he was actually a hero too,
Oh yeah.
because he was fighting for a just cause.
Yeah.
He was the classic anti-hero.
Oh, absolutely.
He was that person. So I just thought, well, why don't we sort of make him like a resurrection of Guy Fawkes somehow? Because our concentration camp survivor had already been described by Alan as kind of crazy. It had been experimented on.
Yeah.
So,
Almost like a
imagine.
conspiracy theorist, almost.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Imagine this character who's just come out of this concentration camp, vowing vengeance, twisted, needing revenge, knows about history. He will become a resurrection of Guy Fawkes.
Mm-hmm.
He will become, and what he will do, he will actually succeed where Guy Fawkes failed.
Mm-hmm.
He will blow up the House of Parliament.
Yeah.
He will destroy the tyrannical regime.
Yep.
And that was it.
Wow, and the infamous mask that now today is obviously
Oh, it's
taken
iconic.
over. It's it's iconic. It's as big as Captain America's shield. It's as big as a lightsaber. That mask now. We just saw that out in the. I was talking earlier with David, and we were out there walking around Station Iron trying to find someplace to eat, and there was a whole line of them, same guy folk outfits, the hat, the mask, they're protesting something. Obviously, the big thing nowadays is the anonymous hacking group, right? They use that mask, Mr. Robot.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's.
I've always said David should have like a pile of these masks and just autograph them and sell those.
Absolutely.
You know
what? That's a genius idea. We're going to make that happen because even last night,
I got to credit that. I have to give credit to that to my friend John Jesperson. That was his idea.
All right, John. We thank you, John Jesperson, for planting the seed in Rich Hen's head, because now we're going to capitalize on it. You didn't sign any documents, so we might give you a freebie. Maybe you might.
Well, the first year David was here, I mean, he really didn't have physical product.
Right.
You just promoting Aces Weekly. And people would come up, and I think, because I would overhear people as they were talking, you either knew who he was through Vendetta, or you were just learning about him now for the first time. And DC has made, God only knows how much money off of that book, off of that image, off of those masks.
Right.
Let's get a case.
Well, yeah. Well, now
JJ said, let's get a case of these masks.
Absolutely. Well, even like with Mr. Robot's popularity, I mean, that's like an iconic part of F Society.
Yeah,
right? That's their image. They use that as part of Anonymous.
Right.
I remember even meeting Rami Malek a couple of years ago when he was here with Keith Sutherland.
Yep.
And I brought him up. I brought you up in front of Rami, and I said, "Hey,
Oh, you met Rami?
No, he hasn't met him.
Oh,
yet.
He hasn't met him.
No, I met him. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Kelly. It was Kelly and I.
Right.
I had the Entertainment Weekly magazine, and Keith Sutherland and Rami was on the cover, and I went up to him, and at first he didn't want to sign it. I said, "Listen, this is for me." He personalized it to Chris, but I said, I know Mr. Lloyd. And I said, and he's like, "Wait, the Mr. Lloyd?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. He's at a booth of the buddy of mine."
Rami knew who he was.
Rami knows, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because when he said he was studying, I was asking him, I was like, "What did you do to prep for for Mr. Robot?" And he said he was, reading all the content, the movie, watching everything he possibly can related to that mask and where the founding of Anonymous came from, using that mask, and it was the vigilante, right? So this is the prop that they used in the internet vigilante, right, for hackers of good. So that's a genius idea, though. I think we're going to do that. You guys heard it here first. San Diego Comic-Con 50th anniversary next year. You're going to get some signed David Lloyd
V for
Vendetta masks. That's genius.
And today, this year is we didn't mention this. It is the 30th anniversary of publication of V.
Really?
30th anniversary.
It's been 30 years.
Well, it's the 30th anniversary of the conclusion of V as a miniseries.
Yeah.
Which the last issue was in 1989.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Wow.
So it is. It's like, but the great thing is, the great, fantastic thing about V, and I say that, as subjectively as I possibly can.
Yep.
Is that it reaches out over those 30 years. It reaches out to a whole generation, and it's like incredible.
Yeah.
Because it says everything that's important to all of us. Really.
Right, absolutely.
It encapsulates everything that's important
to
all of us. It's all about, being true to yourself. And, there's nothing more important. A lot of the trouble that is happening in the world is due to people becoming part of a tribe.
Yep.
I'm Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm this, I'm that.
Libertarian, independent, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. For God's sake, think for yourself, and people join tribes because they're afraid of their own viewpoint.
Right.
It's very difficult to have an individual viewpoint and stick out there and say, well, no, yeah, I understand, but I don't believe that, because everybody wants to feel safe. Everybody wants to be safe. And it's safer in numbers. It's always been that way. Safer in numbers.
Since the beginning of time, hunter-gatherers.
And that's where you end up in wars. I mean, for God's sake, what on earth were all the gyms doing in 30s? What the hell were they doing?
Exactly.
Joining in. And most of them weren't in the Nazi party. In the Nazi party.
Yeah.
What the hell were they doing?
Yeah.
It was like, but it's like, but it's about it's about desperation. People when they're afraid, they want to join somebody they want to join a club.
Absolutely.
They want to be safe.
They want to feel included.
Well, we're living that today.
Right. It's like anything. Even when your
right
kids
now.
in school and you
Sure.
want to be picked first, and when they're going through in the recess in your grade school, but you're picked last. You don't want to be the kid that gets picked last.
No, but the irony is that those kids who were picked last or were not picked, they end up making the movies.
Yep, exactly.
I was
making,
Becoming the
picked
heroes.
Last.
yeah.
I was always the last.
Yeah.
Always.
I was almost always
Always.
picked last because I was the
Every
biggest, the
time.
tallest, and I was the clumsiest.
Really?
It took a while for my whole hand-eye coordination to come together. Like, I don't want to. If we're playing maybe boxing, yeah, we'll put Chris in. But other than that, no. But back to the mask though. So let's talk about because that mask that we talked about is iconic, obviously, right? It's your V for Vendetta story started this whole revolution in white hat, black hat hacking is what it's called with Anonymous Group. So where did the origin of the mask come from? Was it from an opera prop that you guys had, or maybe in Venice? There was
there's no mystery behind that really, because once as I described, the character went to adopt the persona of Guy Fawkes. Well, when you do that, you're gonna have the costume of Guy Fawkes.
Yeah.
You've got to have the costume of Guy Fawkes.
Absolutely.
And then also you have got to look like Guy Fawkes.
Yep.
And what we know little about what you do, apart from a couple of prints. We know
Right.
something,
Right.
which is a very simple moustache, beard, and so that's it. It's a stylized version of what we know Guy Fawkes to look like. So that's what he would have to wear in order to be that character.
Right.
The mask was a kind of the swile was a kind of accident, because I tell you the original plan when we did this was for me to use the kind of very cheap masks that you could buy in a comic store, not a comic store.
Like a Halloween props, like a Halloween store or something.
Well, in England,
with the Halloween,
in England we
like the
never had anything like that.
Yeah.
But they were every news agents, every convenience store, you'd call them here, would sell fireworks. And as part of the collection, they would have these Guy Fawkes masks that you could stick on an effigy, a dummy of Guy Fawkes, and you would put him on the bonfire and burn him up. I mean, that
Were we Bruno back in the Catholic Church in Italy?
But,
Wow.
No, but that's how extraordinary it was.
Yeah.
The tradition in England, which is now faded to a degree, I'm glad to say, was that every household would make their own dummy of this terrible terrorist, Guy Fawkes, who in 1605 dared to try and change the way the world was.
Wow.
So everyone, and I did that. Every year I did that when I was a kid. You make a dummy. You get old clothes. You stuff it full of straw and.
I never knew this.
No, absolutely. And then what?
This is fascinating.
I don't know. On November the 5th.
We celebrate Easter, Christmas, and Guy Fawkes Day.
Yeah, on November the 5th. This dummy.
Yeah.
You put a mask on it that represents that it's Guy Fawkes.
Yeah. Any mask.
Right.
Any mask you can find.
No.
It'd
The
be
Guy Fawkes mask, which was manufactured
Okay.
by companies. They're really very simple papier-mâché masks.
Okay.
Every store that sold fireworks would have them.
Wow.
This is throughout England.
Wow. I had no
England.
idea.
No, this is like.
And
okay.
as he's telling this story, I'm remembering. It's been a long time since I've read the book, but I remember now you said November 5th, and I'm remembering. Remember the 5th of
Well,
November.
that was it. That's the whole
Wow.
chant. That's,
Right.
That's the whole chant.
Remember the 5th.
Wow.
Remember the 5th of November. Gunpowder, fire and plot.
Wow.
Remember the 5th of November. That never be forgotten.
So we have May the 4th for Star Wars, and you guys have
And November
November
5th. We have May 4th and he has November 5th.
Yeah.
That's
But
wild.
anyway,
That's amazing.
that is the brutality of the situation.
Yeah.
And every household did that. They let off their own fireworks in celebration of the death of this terrible terrorist.
Wow.
And they would have their own bonfire, and we did, and that's what we used to do. that by the time that we were doing V, that was all beginning to fade, and now is fading greatly. Now Halloween is bigger in England than goggles. But those masks that you could get in a store, that was what I originally was going to use. One of those simple regular masks.
Well, of course, because it's part of history. That's
but I couldn't get one because we created V in the middle of summer, and you can only get those masks around about November. So what happened was I called costumiers, see if I could get one. I couldn't. Not being able to get one, I made up my own, and I had a kind of memory that there was a smile on that mask that I remember.
Oh, okay.
It might have just been the moustache that gave the illusion. But anyway, when I did my own version, I added the smile, and that's
history.
Everything
else So the mask that we see today, that is your creation. That's your
design.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's still just a stylized, very simple version of what we know Guy Fawkes to look like. So that's it.
Wow, that's fascinating. Jeez, man, I had no idea. That's like, I love learning something new every day, and that's the beauty about Comic-Con. You come here, you love a story, you love a character, and then you get to meet one of the genius creators of it, and you get to find those little tidbits that most people don't know about.
I was telling David when we were taking a break and we were recharging the battery. I remember the first time I saw the book. I had a roommate in college that had gone to the comic book store and picked up stuff, and he had discovered G for Vendetta.
Right.
And he said, you have to take a look at this. This is unlike anything we've seen before. We're used to reading Marvel and DC,
right?
And it's all very stylized. This was very unique and very different. And Brian was very big into David's work.
Yeah.
And we'd sit there, and he would read one and hand it to me, and I'd read it, and then he'd hand me another. It was beautiful. I mean, the stuff was so unique to what we were picking up at the time.
Wow. That's amazing. What a story, I tell you. And then it's been going on ever since then. Yeah. So you ever thought about doing something similar, like creating like a new story, a new vigilante, or just...
No, I really don't need to do anything else. I mean, I've done lots of things.
Yeah.
I've done lots of stories. I've been in the business for more than 30 years. And I've done lots of things. I've worked with lots of great people.
Yep.
Done many things I'm proud of. And I don't need to do anything else. I mean, and my current position as editor-publisher of Aces Weekly, which is an anthology magazine, but a cyberspace magazine.
Okay. All digital.
Yeah, all digital, no print, no paper, because we're in the 21st century.
Okay.
We actually happen to have, at our behest, the best means of reproduction and distribution thus far invented by man, which is called a computer.
Yeah, that's right.
And the internet. So we don't need this, print everything and put it in boxes and put it in trucks and send it all over. We don't need to do that.
Yeah, you can download it right to your smartphone and watch the. I do that all the time. That's how I read my comics now.
Well, there you go. You don't need to. That's the way we do things. So I'm very proud of anything. My creativity is diverted to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and there are lots of really great artists and writers around who don't get a look in. They don't get a chance to get published or seen anywhere.
Oh yeah.
Because the industry is very. It's
tough to break through it. Yeah,
it's censorious.
Yeah.
It's like and you the big two, which is where dominates the whole business.
Yep.
They're very picky. They're very picky. And outside of that arena, there are still lots of fantastic artists and writers with new ideas and bright ideas, just telling stories about the world. I mean, where are they going to go?
Yep.
And the only thing that stops them getting where they should be is because, again, the expense of printing.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why characters and all that stuff are so constantly produced and endlessly recycled is because the publishers have to get their money back from all these enormous costs
investments
of distribution. Well, if you cut that out, you've got more freedom, and there are more bright ideas that can come along. And that's one of the other benefits of cyberspace publishing.
Absolutely.
You've got that freedom, and it's very easy to produce cyberspace.
Oh,
comics.
absolutely.
So let's do it. That's and please, to all the comic readers out there,
Yeah.
please stop wanting to hug that thing.
Yeah.
Share
it.
I understand you wanting to love paper and having a thing, and wanting to collect, but relax.
Yeah.
Take it on the cloud.
Yeah, that's right.
Take it on the cloud. It's cheaper. It's efficient. You need a password to get it.
Yep.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's what I believe in, and it's progress, and we should embrace it, not resist it for some kind of crazy atavistic concept.
Well, now the sky is not the limit anymore. It's infinite now. I mean, it's just gonna, we can publish anybody's content online now. Like you said, the costs are low. The barrier of change is even lower now, and the barrier to get into this market is even lower. It's not as hard anymore. So, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? Like, where can they find all this digital?
Aces Weekly.
It's www.acesweekly.co.uk. And remember, it's .co.uk.
That's right. It's
not .com.
That's right.
Because a lot of people think, and they go to .com, and I think, no, we're British. we're a British product.
That's right.
The M is silent.
We don't need to, but being British or American or from
Asia,
France or
Europe, wherever.
It doesn't matter, because that is the other benefit of cyberspace. You go.
There's no
anywhere.
walls.
You go anywhere, but I'm just very proud to be British.
Absolutely.
And to be publishing in the way we can. I would love to have a .com, but I couldn't do that because of the legalities around.
I gotcha. Okay.
But I'm very proud to be British, and I'm But I tell you one thing. The other thing I'm proud of is that our cast of contributors, they are global.
Oh, absolutely.
We have Spanish, Brazilian, we have Argentinian, we have Italian, we have British, American, everybody. And unfortunately, we're still just in the English language.
Yeah.
But that's only because changing languages is still expensive and difficult.
Oh, absolutely.
Even digitally, it's still expensive.
Oh, absolutely. It takes a lot of man hours. Yeah.
But man, everybody working on Aces Weekly, they're like from everywhere. So we have a global cast, we have a global reach, and let's go.
That's I just love hearing the passion in his voice. When you got something you're passionate about, it just takes over, and that's amazing. So we're absolutely going to promote that. Everybody at home,
Aces Weekly.
acesweekly.co.uk. All right, we're going to do that. Well, with that, we got about a few minutes left, 1 minute. So we're going to sign off.
1 minute.
Barzinga, the first episode. It's going to be
Comic-Con, 50th
anniversary. Rich Hen,
Chris Rohn, David Lloyd.
I really appreciate it. You guys have been awesome.
This
has been an amazing experience.
I do have to give one shout out to my good friend Baltimore Lauren, because Barzinga, Barzinga originated. It was something that she and I did as a video blog.
Okay.
And now we're going to the next.
That's right. This is the next stage, next level.
So hopefully
David's here going to help
the next
kind of lift it
episode
off.
We'll have Lauren with us.
That's going to be awesome. That'll be perfect. And we're going to have a stack of these masks next year. We're going to make it happen. You heard it here first. All right. With that said, everybody have a great con. Appreciate. If you like what you're seeing, want to hear more, subscribe, hit that like button, hit that little bell down the bottom. You'll get notifications of our new podcast. Rich and I are going to be setting up some more videos, some more interviews. So here we go. With that, we'll sign off. See you at Comic-Con.
Bye-bye.
See you there, everybody.
Barzinga out.
Barzinga out.